I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk about children and the challenges we face as a community. I got into this topic because while I was mayor, the then superintendent of schools, Richard Green, asked our office to get involved. Prior to that time, I figured that my responsibility lay with police and streets and traffic and economic development and so on, but we wanted to be helpful and we began holding some forums to talk about the challenges as a community that we were facing, and we held a number of meetings and I went through a self-education process. I became convinced this is one of the biggest challenges our city faced. That was back in 1985. What troubles me is that since then we don't seem to have made much progress. The poverty rates are higher. The challenges to our public school system are greater than they were then. And we have yet, I think, to find the right answers to enable all of our children to succeed. Just a little more on how I have followed that interest. My attention was on early childhood initially, and partly fueled by the research projects that have been carried on around the United States. One of them was called Abecedarian. It was a program of giving kids an opportunity to attend a quality preschool, and they've been tracking those kids ever since. Another one was for the parent-child centers in Chicago, which actually was through the public school system in Chicago, but a number of the schools provided for preschool and family support, and they've been tracking those kids now for 40 years. A third one was in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and again, providing the children with quality early childhood and then tracking the outcomes for those children. All of those programs have shown that if you provide children with quality early childhood education, their chances for success are significantly improved. They're less likely to drop out of school, to do better in school, they're more likely to get a job throughout their adult life. Now they have been following these families for decades. They do better than the families or the children that didn't have that kind of benefit. So I was really convinced that that's what we needed. And we began working to try to move that agenda forward. We worked with the Head Start. We built them a new headquarters over on the north side. We started the Youth Coordinating Board. The first director of the Youth Coordinating Board is in the audience here. The fellow that's not too shy. He's now running for the school board, fortunately. His name is Dick Mammon, and he's sitting over there by the window. He's a very good guy. I shouldn't be partisan up here, but I think he's a good candidate. After I left the mayor's job, I ended up teaching at the Humphrey Institute on early childhood. And of course, I'm not a real expert, but I got somebody who was to co-teach with me, and that worked out okay. Now, the most recent efforts that institutionally has been the development of an organization called Ready for K, and that stands for Ready for Kindergarten. And the basic, simple premise of that organization is the fact that over half the kids who show up at kindergarten are not ready for school. They have various challenges. So the objective of Ready for K is to get public programs like early childhood, quality early childhood, in place for those children so that we don't have 50% of kids not ready. Todd Otis, who is a former legislator from South Minneapolis, is the president of Ready for K, and they've really done really good work. They not only helped publicize the issue, but they have helped create within the legislature an early childhood caucus that's bipartisan. They have the majority of the legislature that has joined that caucus. And so the support has grown for early childhood. All we lack is the money. Governor Pawlenty has not shown a great deal of interest in providing money for early childhood. He doesn't provide money for anything else as far as I can tell. Well, that's the background. One of the points of discussion after we hear from Kara may be why kids are having so much trouble, but I think many of you already know that, but we'll see where the conversation goes. But I'm delighted you're here. I'm delighted that you're willing to sit through a discussion of what's happening to our children. I think it is the number one issue as far as I'm concerned, and I hope over the next few years we'll see some real progress. Thank you very much. My interest is centered on early childhood because I thought that was the key to success in school. I still believe that. But it occurred to me that it would be useful to take a broader look at school achievement. And so for the last 3 years we've been having a forum in which we invite speakers to come talk about school performance. The reality is that some schools do fairly well by kids coming from low-income families, and other schools don't do so well. In fact, the achievement gap in Minneapolis is now rated as one of the largest in the United States. I think we're like second place or something like that. We're doing badly, in other words. So within our group, we tried to come to some consensus as to what might make a difference in working with these children. One answer seems to be more time in school, longer school hours, longer school years. Another is to get the strongest possible principal at the head of a school. Principals are extraordinarily important in developing the kind of collegiality and working environment which encourages and supports children. So we talk about it a lot, and we've talked about it for 3 years, but at our last meeting a month ago, we had David Heistad, who keeps track of data for the Minneapolis Public Schools, come and report on what has happened on student outcome over the last 3 years. The answer was that with the very youngest children, there was some gain, but overall, we have made no significant progress over the last 3 years. And so the question now is, well, what's going to happen over the next 3 years? Are we going to continue at a fairly low level of achievement for these children? So we continue to struggle with that issue. In other words, we're looking at it from a broader context than just early childhood. Even if a child comes to school without the support of a strong early education, what can the schools do in order to help that child succeed? Some schools can do a lot for that child, and other schools are not doing that well. And that remains a persistent problem, I think, for the Minneapolis community.